Good morning. I'm going to be recording a video on Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley. I don't have the document camera, so bear with me. I'll try not to shake too much as I'm making annotations, and you can follow along. Please make annotations on your document, your clean copy of the poem as we go along, and I'll be asking some questions as well, so you can just kind of pause the video and think over your response to the question when I ask something. So this is Ozymandias by Shelley. The first thing that you need to know is that the title of the poem, Ozymandias, is the name of an Egyptian pharaoh, also known as Ramses the third, I think. You may want to check on that. Do some Google fact checking there on the title. But basically what you need to know is that Ozymandias is the Greek name of an Egyptian pharaoh. So that's who the subject of our poem is. Now, we have a speaker in the poem. We have a clear I, so the poem starts off with an I. But then we also have a secondary speaker. So, I met a traveler from an antique land who said, and then the rest of the poem is what the traveler said. There's actually a third speaker in the poem, which we'll get to later on. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal, these words appear." And now here's kind of our third speaker in the poem. "My name is Ozymandias, king of kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away." Now, if you want if you want to see a visual depiction of the poem, I've put a link on, I believe, Monday's Gibbon, where somebody has drawn a cartoon of the poem. So that's kind of interesting and might give you a better sense of what's actually happening in the poem. So if we want to discuss the rest of this, so I've said we have three speakers. I can also talk a little bit about the structure of the poem. So you'll remember from last lesson, this is a special type of poem. If we look at the rhyme scheme, land, stone, sand, frown, command, read, things, fed, appear, kings, despair, decay, bear, away. This is a sonnet, so it has 14 lines. It is not a Shakespearean sonnet, though, because it doesn't quite follow the Shakespearean rhyme scheme. This we would call a Petrarchan or Italian sonnet. Okay, so you can see if you can identify the rhyme scheme there. Notice that some of the rhymes are not exact. So he chooses to rhyme stone and frown, which is not a perfect rhyme, but it's a near rhyme, close enough for our rhyme scheme. So you can go ahead, pause the video, identify the rhyme scheme, and it's a Petrarchan rhyme scheme rather than a Shakespearean rhyme scheme. So slightly different than our Sonnet 73 we were looking at yesterday. All right. So let's talk about what's going on in the poem. We have our first speaker, met a traveler who said, and notice that it's a traveler from an antique land. So that's kind of an interesting word choice. What might you say about the use of the word antique? This is me asking you. So feel free to make your own claims about the use of that word antique. What are the connotations? What does that make you think of? And then we get to what our traveler has seen. So traveler, that also kind of gives us a specific image. And he describes something. He describes, what does he describe here? He's describing a ruined statue, so some sort of very large statue. It's the legs are vast and trunkless. Okay, so trunk is the body, so it's legs of stone, so it's the remnants of a statue, but the statue is no longer intact. It's been destroyed by time, right? So we have the vast legs of stone standing in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies. Okay, so what is a visage? Okay, well, it's a face. But what is the use of that word visage call to your mind? Why does he use that word? Why is that interesting? How does it affect the poem? And what type of face is this that was on our statue? Well, it had a frown and a wrinkled lip and a sneer of cold command. Okay, so this is a very imposing, imperious face, right? And you'll notice that there's a lot of enjambment in the beginning of the poem. This is all still one sentence, right? So we're still going on. There's enjambment. It continues. The shattered visage, the frown, the expression on the face, tell that it's sculptor, so the person who made the statue. Well, those passions red, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things. So he's saying here that the sculptor captured the imperiousness, the manner of this person that the statue is of, which is Ozymandias, our title of the poem. But the things are lifeless. So this is a statue. What can we say about Ozymandias? Well, he's long dead, right? The hand that mocked them, the heart that fed. So you get the sense that this ruler, this Ozymandias, was heartless. This is an interesting line here. The hand that mocked them. Whose hand are we talking here? That's something that you may want to consider. This is me asking you another question. So think about that. Whose hand, and what is the them that it's referring to? Heart that fed, also an interesting image. Take a few minutes and try to work out what this line means, because I think this line is interesting, and maybe has a couple of different interpretations that you could consider. Okay, and of course, any responses to these questions should go in your own annotations and notes. All right, and looking at the last 6 lines, the final sextet of the poem. So a Petrarchan sonnet is often divided into an octave and a sestet. And on the pedestal, so we're describing the statue still, these words appear. So now this is kind of a third speaker. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. So again, we get the sense that Ozymandias is a powerful, or was, of course, he's long dead, right? Which is very important for the meaning of the poem. He's an imperious governor. He thinks very highly of himself. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Calls himself King of Kings, right? So he's claiming that he is all powerful. Now, there's some irony, of course, in the next line, which is a very short sentence, which kind of contrasts the rest of the poem. Nothing beside remains. So we have this irony here where Ozymandias is saying, look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. So feel bad when you see all of my wondrous accomplishments, because you'll never accomplish this, even if you're, also a mighty person. I am the King of Kings, and yet nothing beside remains. So there's nothing left of him. We remember his name, so there's a bit of an argument there, right, that he's, still got some of this power that he originally had, because we do still remember his name, even now, thousands of years later. But those works that he talked about, gone. And then we have another sentence. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, Boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. So take a look at this last sentence. And if we could say that this sentence is short, maybe to call attention to the fact that there's nothing left of this very powerful king's kingdom, then what could we say about the structure of this last sentence? Again, this is me asking you a question. So consider that. Consider also maybe the sound devices used in this last sentence and how they affect the meaning or the tone of that last sentence and the message of the overall poem. Because there's some interesting things sound-wise that I think you could comment on there. Look for alliteration, for example. Yes, okay. We can also look at word choice, right? So decay, wreck, those words kind of go together. Now decay maybe makes you think of time, like the passage of time has destroyed this. Wreck has maybe some different connotations. So maybe consider the word choice there, how decay calls to mind a different type of ruin than wreck does. Colossal, I think, reflects back to the vast, the enormity of the size, right? So you can consider that as well. Colossal also makes me think of there's no way I'm going to spell this right, the Colossus, which is a Greek statue, right? So some connections there, I think. Probably not spelled correctly. Okay, so overall, that's the poem. I'm not going to talk for any longer. Hopefully you were able to come up with some responses to the questions that I asked, which you can include in your own annotations, and hopefully you were able to make some annotations based on what I've said. I'm going to end this video now, and you will be uploading your annotations to Gibbon, so I will take a look at those. Also, in your annotations, include any connections that you might be able to make between this poem and ones that we've read. I mean, based on structure, you could look at how this compares to Sonnet 73, but maybe think beyond that, think thematically. What is this poem? Which other poems could this one be linked to if we're talking theme? Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.